The blind date table sat empty, until two black twins marched in and said, "Our father apologizes for the delay." Chloe Grant, the blonde waitress, froze with an arched eyebrow and a smirk that never reached her eyes. "Are you sure you're in the right place?" she asked, her tone dipped in sugar but sharpened with judgment. "Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding." Dr. Alina Carter, seated at the marble table in the most pretentious cafe in the district, forced a calm breath. Her fingers tapped in rhythm against the glass surface. 7:23 p.m. Her blind date, arranged by her enthusiastic friend Sophie Linwood, was exactly 23 minutes late. "Oh, I'm in the right place," Alina replied, masking irritation with poise. "I'm waiting for someone." Chloe let out a low chuckle. "Well, maybe he reconsidered. Happens a lot. People sometimes realize they've made unsuitable choices." Alina felt the familiar burn rise in her throat. A Harvard-trained pediatric cardiologist, she had endured her share of stares, whispers, and thinly veiled assumptions. But the waitress's sneer hit a different chord, one she knew too well. "I'll wait," she answered coolly, voice steady with the confidence of a woman who had survived far worse storms. That's when the cafe doors burst open. Two children, twins, no older than 8, stepped inside. A boy and a girl, skin rich and dark like Alina's, wearing neatly pressed clothes and confidence far too mature for their age. They scanned the room, spotted Alina, and walked straight toward her. "Are you Dr. Alina Carter?" the boy asked, standing a little taller than his sister. "Yes," she replied slowly. The girl clasped her hands and spoke with polite precision. "Our father apologizes for being late. He's stuck at the hospital. Emergency surgery." Alina blinked, confused, curious. "Your father is Dr. Marcus Hale?" she asked. The twins nodded in perfect unison. Dr. Marcus Hale. The name hit the room like dropped silverware. Even Chloe, who had been eavesdropping, stiffened. Marcus Hale was the Marcus Hale, celebrated neurosurgeon, local celebrity, and widower whose interviews aired on every health documentary in the city. And he was black. Alina leaned closer. "You two came here, alone, to tell me this?" The twins exchanged a look, sharp, knowing, conspiratorial. "Actually," the boy whispered, "Dad doesn't know we're here. We heard him talking on the phone last night. He was so nervous about this date, he fixed his hair 3 times. Despite her confusion, Alina let out a soft laugh. "So you snuck out just to deliver this message?" "We convinced Grandma to drop us off," the girl confessed. "We told her it was a school emergency." Out of the corner of her eye, Alina noticed Chloe shrinking, suddenly quiet. The same woman who dismissed her minutes ago now realized the inappropriate black woman she belittled was the chosen date of the city's most admired surgeon. But why go through all this trouble? Alina asked gently. The twins shared another secret glance. The girl spoke first, quiet, honest. "Because our dad hasn't really smiled in a long time," the boy continued with a child's tragic straightforwardness. "Mom died when we were 5. Dad never wanted to meet anyone again. But when Aunt Sophie showed him your picture, he smiled, the way he used to. Before everything, Alina felt something shift in her chest. Grief, hope, empathy, all tangled. These children were bold, brilliant, and clearly hiding more than they were revealing. Whatever brought them here tonight, this was only the beginning. And Chloe, once smug, now stood silent, reduced to background furniture in a story that no longer valued her judgment. "Children," Chloe said, her fake sweetness stretched so thin it was nearly transparent. "Are you sure you're not confused? Perhaps your father is waiting at another cafe." "No, ma'am," Elias replied, standing firm. "Dad said Maple Avenue Cafe, corner table 630, with the lady who has curly hair and a pretty smile." Dr. Alina Carter felt her cheeks warm. Marcus had described her like that. Before she could speak, Alara pulled a small backpack onto her lap and retrieved an envelope. "He sent this, just to prove we're really his kids." Inside was a photo. Marcus in scrubs, hugging both twins, all 3 of them smiling. On the back, rushed masculine handwriting read, "Alina, if you're holding this, it means my children acted before I did. I hope I earned the chance to explain. Please don't run." Marcus Alina lifted her eyes, suspicion narrowing her gaze. "You said your father doesn't know you're here. The twins shared that same secretive twin look. Well, Ilara said, he doesn't know we came now. But he told us last night that if something happened at the hospital and he was late, we should know where to find you. So this was planned, Alina said, incredulous. Kind of, Elias admitted with a shrug. Dad thinks too much. We just helped him be brave. Before Alina could process, Chloe the waitress cleared her throat loudly. Excuse me, but this is a serious establishment. Maybe it's best if you continue this little family moment elsewhere. The innuendo in her voice made Alina's jaw tighten. She knew that tone. She'd heard versions of it in boardrooms, lecture halls, and operating rooms. The kind that said you don't belong here. Alina's response was calm, cold, and razor-sharp. Actually, we'll stay exactly where we are. I'm waiting for Dr. Marcus Hale, one of this cafe's largest annual donors. If I recall correctly. Chloe froze. Marcus Hale wasn't just a famous surgeon. He publicly funded the cafe's signature charity gala. For a moment, the waitress's confidence shattered. I didn't mean, she stammered. Of course, Alina replied sweetly. Your intentions are always pure, I'm sure. The twins stared at her in awe. Wow, Elias whispered. You talk like Dad when other doctors pretend they know more than him. What do you mean? Alina asked. Ilara straightened with pride. Dad is the head of neurosurgery. But some older doctors don't respect him at first, until they find out he trained at Johns Hopkins and saved more lives in 2 years than they have in their entire careers. Alina felt that. Deeply. Harvard. Johns Hopkins. Different paths, same battles. How do you deal with people like that? She asked gently. Elias answered with wise simplicity. Grandma says when someone tries to make you feel small, it's because they know you're going to grow bigger than them. Alina exhaled slowly. Yes, she had lived that truth. Before she could say more, the cafe doors swung open with urgency. A tall man in blue scrubs strode in, breath uneven, eyes scanning the room. When his gaze locked on Alina, she recognized him instantly, though they had never met. Dr. Marcus Hale. Daddy! The twins shouted, racing into his arms. He hugged them quickly, then stepped toward Alina. Relief, exhaustion, and something like fear flickered in his eyes. Tears threatened at the edges. I'm sorry, Marcus said, voice thick. A 6-year-old. Brain tumor? We just finished. He made it. He swallowed. I never meant for you to wait. You don't need to apologize, Alina replied softly, rising from her seat. You saved a child today. There is no greater reason to be late. Marcus looked at her with stunned gratitude, as though she had spoken directly into the part of him that still bled. It's me, Alina, Marcus said gently, motioning toward the twins. And these two, he sighed, are my miniature masterminds who apparently believe they run my life. Elias grinned proudly. Ilara mirrored it, peeking out from behind her father's arm. We just didn't want her to leave, Ilara defended. And it worked, Elias added. Triumphant, Marcus shot them a look, a mixture of disbelief, exhaustion, and reluctant admiration. When his eyes returned to Alina, something in his expression softened. Gratitude, hope, and something deeper she wasn't ready to name. But the twins, those bright, perceptive eyes, held a different satisfaction, not the relief of saving a date. The satisfaction of a plan unfolding exactly as designed. They know something, Alina realized, and they're not telling him everything. Before she could speak, Chloe cut in, her voice dripping with disapproval. Dr. Hale, now that you're here, perhaps you could continue your meeting somewhere else. We need this table for other guests. Alina glanced around the cafe, half empty, silent, and filled with wealthy white faces, watching them with curiosity they didn't bother to hide. Not admiration. Not interest, surveillance, she recognized the posture. People who believed they owned the space they stood in. Marcus pulled a chair out for Alina and sat without even looking at Chloe. This table was reserved for us. We'll stay. The twins exchanged another conspiratorial look. Daddy, Ilara whispered, tugging on his sleeve. The lady was rude to Dr. Carter before we got here. Marcus's head lifted immediately. Rude how? Alina answered before the twins could escalate it. She implied I might be in the wrong place, subtle but clear. His jaw tightened. I see. And Dr. Carter handled it like a warrior, Elias added, almost gleeful. She mentioned you were a donor and the waitress nearly fainted. Marcus turned his gaze toward Chloe, now retreating behind the counter but still listening. Miss Grant, he said calmly, are you familiar with your employer's policy on treating guests with dignity? Chloe stiffened, but before Marcus could press, Elias whispered, Daddy. Tell her what Grandma found. Marcus closed his eyes for a beat, shoulders heavy. Not now, Alina frowned. Found out what? The twins looked at each other. Their signal, their secret language. My mother-in-law, Marcus admitted, is a retired lawyer. When she found out I was going on my first date in 2 years, she overreached. She researches everything and everyone. Ilara sat straighter, as though presenting a case in court. She found out this cafe has a history. 3 discrimination lawsuits involving black customers. All settled, all quiet. Grandma didn't want someone weak sitting at this table. She said if you were the right person, you wouldn't be intimidated. Alina stared, stunned. Then she laughed. A single disbelieving breath. So your mother-in-law tested me? With a racist cafe? She also researched you. Elias added cheerfully. Marcus nearly choked. Kids, she found out you sued St. David's Hospital and won, Ilara finished. The air stilled. Alina absorbed the words, her voice steady when she finally replied. That lawsuit isn't public record. Not the details. Grandma knows people, Elias said simply. She said only a woman who stood up to an entire hospital could stand beside our dad. Stand beside your family, Ilara corrected softly. The meaning sank in. These children weren't just playing Cupid. They were recruiting. Marcus exhaled, ashamed but honest. My wife was white. The twins are biracial. The world has not been kind. Their grandmother wants someone who understands that terrain. Someone who knows what it costs just to exist in certain rooms. Alina met the twins' eyes. She knew that look. That quiet vigilance children should never have to learn. Before she could reply, Chloe reappeared with a tray and a suddenly sugary smile. Dr. Hale, coffee. On the house. She placed the cup in front of Marcus, only Marcus. How thoughtful, Marcus said coolly. Then, without removing his gaze from Chloe, he added, But I believe my fiancé would like a cup as well. Chloe blinked. The room went silent. Alina froze. Not at the word itself, but at the unshakable certainty with which he said it. The twins. They smiled. Not mischievously this time, knowingly. Dr. Alina Carter nearly inhaled her breath the wrong way. Fiancé? She repeated. Dr. Marcus Hale flashed a playful smirk, eyes gleaming with mischief. Apologies, he said, deliberately louder so the nearby tables could hear. We haven't made it official yet, but after what I've witnessed today, I'm convinced I should just go ahead and propose early. Maya and Micah burst into uncontrollable giggles, clearly delighted by their father's theatrics. Alina suddenly understood. This wasn't a simple blind date. This entire family was playing chess while the rest of the room was still learning checkers. Lydia Grant froze beside the table, tray trembling, unsure which expression she was supposed to wear, polite, superior or afraid. Alina turned, straightening her posture. Actually, she said coolly, locking eyes with Lydia, before I enjoy any coffee, I'd like to speak to your manager. There are some customer service policies I'm curious about. Marcus leaned back, pleased. Fantastic idea. And conveniently, he added, I know the owner. We play tennis on weekends. That was the moment Alina realized the night was no longer about awkward introductions or nervous first date chatter. This was bigger. This was about identity, dignity, and 2 people who had fought a world that constantly tried to shrink them and refused to shrink. The twins' eyes sparkled with a satisfaction that went beyond matchmaking. They hadn't just arranged a date. They had orchestrated a mission, and from the subtle way Marcus glanced at his phone and nodded toward the door, Alina understood. This evening was far from over. The cafe door opened. A well-dressed man in his early 50s strode in with purpose, not arrogance, but authority. Lydia paled instantly. Marcus, the man greeted. I got your message, so... He turned to Alina. This is the Dr. Carter my goddaughter Maya keeps talking about. Alina, Marcus said formally. This is Edward Lawson, owner of Lawson's Maple Cafe. Edward, It seems we've had educational service tonight. Edward's jaw tightened. Lydia, he said sharply, what happened? Alina answered before the waitress could rewrite history. Your employee suggested I didn't belong here. Then she implied my date reconsidered because of my appearance. Silence, heavy, exposing. Maya folded her arms. She also ignored us when Dad arrived. And she was rude. Micah stepped forward. And Grandma said you should know the rest. Another silence. This one colder, Edward exhaled. I assume this is about the lawsuits. 3, Maya recited, perfectly composed. All for discrimination against black customers. All quietly paid off. And she pointed at Lydia. She was involved in 2. Lydia's mouth opened, but Edward cut her down with a single command. Leave. We're done. She disappeared. Edward sat. His tone shifted from business to confession. First, you should know, this cafe is already under an active civil rights investigation. He paused. Second, your mother, Evelyn Hale, called me. She offered pro bono legal support to cleanse this place from the inside out. Marcus pinched the bridge of his nose. My mother-in-law turned our first date into a legal sting operation. Micah proudly produced a small audio recorder. Grandma said evidence matters. So we recorded everything. Alina stared. You recorded the entire night. Maya nodded. If we were going to test you, we had to document how others behaved too. Test? Lena repeated. Maya held up her fingers, counting. Test 1, how you handle microaggressions. Test 2, whether you defend children. Test 3, whether you can stay calm under pressure. Test 4, whether you let Dad's status go to your head. And test 5, Micah added, if you confront injustice even when it's uncomfortable. Edward laughed once, astonished. Your mother-in-law used my cafe as a social laboratory. Marcus sighed at Alina. I swear, I only knew she checked the place. Not that she built an entire psychological obstacle course around it. Dr. Alina Carter glanced around the cafe. Conversations had gone quiet. Some customers suddenly sat a little straighter, shame flickering across their faces, because now they understood they hadn't just watched a date. They had witnessed a disgrace play out in front of them. So, Alina said at last, her voice steady, this meeting was real for your father, right? Maya nodded. Completely real. Dad wanted to meet you. Grandma just made sure everything else was controlled. Micah chimed in, proud. We were backup. Case anyone tried something? Marcus sighed, both apologetic and impressed at his children's honesty. Edward Lawson rose from his chair. Thanks to your mother-in-law, I have everything I need to clean this place from top to bottom. He looked at Alina with respect. And Dr. Carter, for what you went through today, I want to offer you lifetime dinners here. My apology. That won't be necessary, Alina replied. Gracious but unbending. I insist, Edward said before walking off to confront the situation he had allowed for too long. As he left, Alina turned back to Marcus and the twins. A slow smile formed. So let me get this straight. Your family tested me, recorded evidence, exposed a corrupt business, and turned a blind date into a full-scale justice mission. Marcus rubbed the back of his neck. That's an accurate summary. And the two of you, Alina said, looking at Maya and Micah, are tiny secret agents? Grandma trained us, Maya said proudly. Alina laughed, really laughed for the first time that night. A warm, unguarded laugh that made even a few strangers smile. Then she said something that made Marcus's chest tighten. The most impressive part? You didn't just test me. You gathered proof so the next black woman who walks in here won't face the same thing. Micah nodded solemnly. Grandma says individual justice is good, but systemic justice changes history. Marcus reached across the table and gently took Alina's hand. So, will you still say yes to a second date? I promise, next time, no surveillance, no interrogations, no undercover operations. Alina squeezed his hand. Actually, before I accept date number 2, I want something else first. What's that? I want to meet the general who runs your army, she grinned. Any woman who can turn a coffee date into a civil rights operation is someone I need in my life. The twins' victory smiles said everything. Alina hadn't just passed. She belonged, but fate wasn't done. Because when a woman who fought racism in a courtroom, a surgeon who battled prejudice in a hospital, and two brilliant twins with an unshakable moral compass stand on the same side. The world bends. 6 months later, the once-tainted cafe became a city landmark, not for scandal, but for transformation. Edward Lawson launched a new diversity training model that spread nationwide. Lydia Grant? Fired immediately. And thanks to the twins' recordings, not a single reputable establishment ever hired her again. Alina and Marcus married in a small ceremony overflowing with tears, sunlight, and meaning. Maya and Micah stood as their proud godparents. And Evelyn Hale, now the city's unofficial civil rights war general, watched with satisfaction. Her mission was complete. Alina expanded her practice, providing heart care for children who could never have afforded it. Marcus became department head at the hospital. Maya and Micah grew into young activists who taught other kids how to confront injustice with intelligence, not violence. 1 year later, on their first anniversary, they returned to the same cafe, renewed, rebuilt, equal. Sitting at the very table where their lives changed forever, Alina whispered, "Your mother didn't sabotage us, Marcus. She gave us the greatest gift. She proved that family isn't about who you come from. It's about who stands with you in the fire." Marcus smiled. The twins leaned in, and in that moment, love, family, and justice sat together, unafraid. Because sometimes love enters our life disguised as a test. Sometimes justice needs children with courage. And sometimes the strongest families are the ones forged in the fight against prejudice.